these two ultra thin foldable phones we want to test out today, and you can see their respective software version. So we have this software version here, which is 15.0.11.5W on the Vivo, and we have HyperOS 2.0.205 on the Xiaomi. Camera wise, we have a quadruple lens setup on the Xiaomi, and we have a triple lens setup on the Vivo. 3 times 50 megapixels, are they any good against the Xiaomi that has one camera lens more? That's just a 2x zoom. Is it really usable and useful? We have to see. And then we have some front-facing shooters as well that I will do only a quick comparison between them. It's just a mess on the Vivo. Look at the very flat, not very interesting colors. It's a bit yellowing my face on the Xiaomi for sure, but look at the detail levels. This is the Xiaomi here. There's a bit of detail still there, even though it's only 1080p. And this is the Vivo. This is like completely ugly looking. It looks like almost 720p that they're upscaling to 1080p because of the shadows and the sharpening that they apply there everywhere. Face is not really in focus and it's totally blurry. That's a night and day difference. The front-facing video is definitely going to the Xiaomi, even though on screen they looked almost identical here. Definitely the Xiaomi is a lot better than the Vivo. To the main highlight for video recording, the main camera sensor here on both. If you flip them open, you have the ability to use the outer screen as a vlogging monitor. Unlike the Vivo X200 Ultra, the X Fold 5 is sticking to 23mm of field of view instead of 35, which helps a lot, so you don't have to rely on the ultra-wide angle. Talking about the ultra-wide angle, 4K 30, 4K 60 frames per second are possible here. You can also switch to the ultra-wide angle by a tap of a button. Let's do this here side by side. And I probably see my hands and arms now in the way. I don't have a rig for this one here. This is the ultra wide angle. Which one is wider, which one is performing a bit better? Hopefully I'm not covering the lenses there. And yeah, what do you think about those here? And now we'll perform a little zoom test as well. So both are now at ultra wide angle. Let's switch to 1x. Let's switch to 2x, which is a dedicated lens on the Xiaomi. They have a bit of a different lens setup. Then we have 3x on the Vivo and 4x, which is a 2 times crop on the 2x on the Xiaomi. Let's go 10x and 5x, which is a dedicated lens on the Xiaomi. Not sure the dedicated lens is used in video though, because I don't see it switching from here to here. It's just digital cropping. Probably it's only used at 1080p, not in 4K, which is a bit of a bummer. They didn't change that. So 10x looks like this on the Xiaomi. It should be a lot worse than on the Vivo. And the maximum here is 15x on the Vivo and 15x on the Xiaomi. Definitely the Vivo, a lot more details. Main camera video is something completely different here. The Vivo redeems itself with not too over sharpened kind of look, not a yellowish kind of face that we have still on the Xiaomi. Xiaomi is a bit over sharpened on the face especially, where the Vivo is a bit softer on the face but still keeps more natural sharpness and has a nicer background blur than the one that we have on the Xiaomi that seems to be a little bit busier there, maybe of some sharpening artifacts because it is sharpening my face a little bit, and it's also sharpening the whole frame, not only the face. That could be the reason here. When it comes to the ultra wide angle, we can clearly see that they're both doing a fine job there. There's a bit more contrast added to the Vivo, and when we take a look at the clarity here, they are basically on par with a little bit of wider field of view that we get on the Xiaomi in comparison to the Vivo. Micro shots on both. The Xiaomi is utilizing its 2x zoom lens, where the Vivo is using its 3x zoom lens. You can see more background blur, nicer background blur on the Vivo. In terms of detail levels in this shot here, very, very equal. Just a bit of a color difference, a bit colder on the Vivo, a bit warmer on the Xiaomi. In this shot here, we can clearly see when we zoom in, both are doing a fantastic job, but we have a bit more details on the Vivo here. Especially look at this here, the flash and those rings. It's completely washed out here. The rest is looking pretty sharp indeed. Main camera sensor is a lot better on the Vivo X Fold 5. You don't see it so much here, but when I zoom in a bit, you can clearly see here that there's a bit more detail on the a little bit of smaller sensor that we have on the Vivo. Actually, the processing is doing a lot. It's adding a little bit more of contrast and a bit more sharpening. That helps definitely. And the Xiaomi is a bit soft all over the frame. HDR is a tiny bit better here as well, as you can see here. It's not by much, but it is a bit, more pleasant on the Vivo than on the Xiaomi. Both struggle a little bit in comparison. It's a bit colder all over the frame on the Vivo in comparison to the Xiaomi. You can clearly see it here as well. They're very, very close together there, almost using the same sensor size there. But the processing on the Vivo is a bit better. Look at the here at the numbers there. It's a bit clearer there on the Vivo than on the Xiaomi. Also here, the car. Very close together, but the detail levels on the Vivo are a little bit higher than on the Xiaomi. And especially it becomes very apparent in low light. Look at the painting here. You can see the strokes that the painter did. On the Xiaomi, it is too soft to see that. It still looks nice and you can see everything. It's a very dark area there, but still you see a lot more details there on the X Fold 5. The X Fold 5 has almost a flagship kind of sensor there. Then portraits are also not looking fine. They utilize different sensors. So the Xiaomi Mix Fold is like cropping in from the 2x to 75mm, where the X Fold 5 is cropping in from the 70 to 85mm, so 3x lens. And this is what you get there, and this is what you get here. Both are, I think, doing a fine job. They're recreating the eyebrows a little bit. The colors are a bit more pleasant on the Vivo by default. It is lifting up the shadows a little bit and making my face a little bit nicer looking there, where the Xiaomi has everything a bit darker there. Also the blue in my eyes is a bit more exaggerated there. Cutouts, I think both are doing a fine job there, though the Vivo is a little bit more ahead. As you see here, the Xiaomi is cutting out a little bit of my hair there. Little hair strains is like not visible on the Xiaomi. It's much more visible on the Vivo for sure. And here, the differences are clear. And also at 2x, the better main camera sensor on the Vivo X Fold 5 is definitely winning in terms of detail and level, sharpness, all over the frame. See my hair, the colors as well, a bit more pleasant on the Vivo X Fold 5. Also selfies and the cutouts here, you can see it's a bit overexposed. This looks not very nice, but on both, the selfie cams on both are not the greatest. This is a tiny bit better there on the Vivo than on the Xiaomi. Also here outdoors, you can clearly see that both are not the best there. Smoothing out on the Vivo, it's a little bit more detailed on the Xiaomi, but both are not very nice when it comes to their outer selfie. When it comes to the telezoom lens, 94, which is a 5x zoom actually on the Mix Fold 4, is performing quite nice, but the X Fold 5 is not as large either here. In terms of detail level, they're very, very comparable here at this focal length. But in the end, if you also see this here, 2x crop, you can clearly see that there's more details, much more sharpening, but also sharpness, natural sharpness that we have to deal with here on the X Fold 5. So the zoom shots, also the portrait zoom shots, you can see the nice bokeh here where it's no bokeh here, is definitely better on the Vivo. Vivo all over the place is more consistent and just simply better, sometimes even declassing the Mix Fold 4. And when it comes to those shots here as well, it is apparent that it is sharper on the X Fold 5, and you zoom more in, like 10 times, it is also very apparent, though they're much closer together as I thought, especially when the Xiaomi is using its 5x lens, but still the 3x lens and better processing of the Vivo is winning slightly here against the Xiaomi. Also with texts, I think it has a slight edge there. Colors as well, most of the time. The ultra wide angle is also another thing where I would say they're very, very close together here. You can see, however, that not much of a difference there. It's a bit of more sharpened up on the Vivo. When we go to low light, you will see a bigger difference here. But here I think the Vivo is a bit too soft in general, and I think it is slightly beaten by the Xiaomi when it comes to detail levels on the ultra wide angle. Also in this example here, I think the Xiaomi is doing a little bit better, where the Vivo looks a little bit, especially when it comes to lower light situations, a little bit sharper, a little bit more detailed. Also in this situation here, look at there, it's sharpening things up for sure. Very, very equal when it comes to them. So these are the photos. Nighttime video recording now with the Vivo X Fold 5. Internal mics walking towards the light. We have a wonderful 5-inch size sensor. What do you think about the quality here of this one? Standing under the light now. Walking into the dark is the processing rescuing this phone, even though we have a slightly older CPU here, or system on the chip with a slightly older ISP. What do you think about this one here? Now I'm standing in the dark looking towards the light. What do you think about stabilization, colors, and so on? Now the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4. What do you think about this one here? This is 4K 24 frames per second. Should be a bit brighter. We have a larger sensor as well. Walking towards the light. Intel mics underneath the light here right now. And now walking away with the light in the background. What do you think about this one here? How well is this doing and performing? And I'm turning to the dark, to the light, I mean, standing in the dark. What do you think about the colors and the performance here of the Mix Fold 4? When we take a look at the nighttime photos and the telezooms here, 10x cropped in, it's utilizing on the Mix Fold 4 the 5x sensor, but it doesn't look too good where the X Fold 5 is cropping in from the 3x sensor, but looks much nicer. So the 3x sensor is better here on the X Fold 5 clearly. And even if I go to 100%, you can clearly see it as well there. It's much more detailed there, even though both are not perfect there for that matter, but it's just better. And when you go in here, check the ultra-wide angle, we see the opposite, the Mix Fold 4 being a bit better than the X Fold 5. The X Fold 5 heavily processing, struggling with HDR a little bit. You can see it's like a bit overblown there, I think, especially in the upper parts there. It is processing a lot more than. This is why it's trying to sharpen things up, but it looks so artificial where it's a bit better on the Mix Fold 4. Here you can see that there's a tree that is green and then there's the blue sky, where here it's completely shadow and you don't see it so much. At least I don't see it so much. And the same goes for everything else here. This looks more natural, this looks more processed. So there's a slight difference between those two, but I think that the Mix Fold 4 is slightly ahead here of the X Fold 5. Look at this here. Yes, some people can say, hey, it looks a bit better because it's like more contrasty look and more sharpened thing there on the X Fold 5. But no, the Vivo is not doing better here. It's not so natural. I think this is much more natural looking. And the license plate test shows it as well. It's a bit of noisy, but it's still good. Where here it's like processed and too much processing, basically. It's just too unnatural to be pretty useful or usable in this case and matter. And if you zoom out and just want to share this shot here, I think both are equally good. Main camera sensor brighter on the X Fold 5, I think, where the Mix Fold 4 is a bit dimmer here. Both struggle a bit with the lens flare effects there. So yes, even though Zeiss coating is not helping the Vivo X Fold 5 tremendously against the Mix Fold 4. The detail levels here, okay, so the lights are red here and green here because they're just split second apart, but you can see that here the processing or even the details are a bit more there. It is not looking too fake, actually. The trees here, the details here on the tree, where here's a bit blurry. The sign, where here's a much sharper sign. Yes, it is the brick works, and look at the bricks here, how much more they're separated. Look at the tree here. It is better on the Vivo than on the Xiaomi simply. And when you go to 2x zoom, I'm not even sure, no, it's f1.7, it's not utilizing on the Mix Fold 4 the dedicated 2x zoom lens. This is why it looks like crap. You don't see it, just zoom in. And then you can see the tremendous difference between those two here. So this is utilizing the 3x 70mm, where this one is not utilizing the 2x, so it's like looking like modern old painting. And the selfie, last but not least, both utilize the main screen, the outer screen, for illuminating my face. The contrast is very high, reconstructing my face, smoothing everything out on the X Fold 5, but the Xiaomi is not way better there. You can see the processing is weak on the Vivo, where the Xiaomi is doing a bit better. But I look like like I have a mask on. It's like totally fake there. So bad versus worse. Which one would you prefer here? Probably, if you zoom out, maybe the Vivo. I'm not sure. What do you think? When we take a look at the ranking and conclusion TLDR, you can see the Vivo X Fold 5 wins against the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4 with 4.308 points against 4.198 points. When we take a look at the details, you can clearly see the main camera photo quality is way better on the X Fold 5. It is even rivaling some of the slab phones with 4.5 points here. The ultra-wide angle amongst both of them is the weakest, even though I think the Mix Fold 4 shows a little bit more potential than the X Fold 5 in the details there. This is why it is ranked slightly higher than the X Fold 5, but basically it's almost identical there. I could even give them the same points, but would be a bit unfair to Xiaomi because they have a little bit of a better ultra-wide angle. The zoom camera photo quality is definitely better on the X Fold 5. This has nothing to do like with the 10x zooms, that is pretty much equal, or even like the 5x versus the 3x, like the optical they're basically identical as you saw. But when it comes to portraits, it's a huge win for the X Fold 5, doing way better portraits, not only with the telelens but also with the portrait 2x sensor. That is a dedicated one on the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4, but in dim lit situations it cannot even compete against the crop of the main camera sensor of the X Fold 5, which is a bit of a shame here. But otherwise, yes, the zoom quality on both is pretty capable, and of course the 3x on the Mix Fold 5 and the 5x on the Mix Fold 4. Optically speaking, the X Fold 5 cannot compete if you have 5x against the Mix Fold 4. It's optical zoom, but yeah, still the X Fold 5 is a bit more versatile, especially when it comes to portrait shooting there. And when you zoom in a bit longer, then I think the algorithms on the X Fold 5 are also a little bit more capable, and especially when it comes to lower light footage then as well. Where we see a bit of a difference as well as the video recording quality, here I give 4.35 points to the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4 because it's a tiny bit worse than the X Fold 5. One could say the main camera sensors is way better on the X Fold 5 because it doesn't have this over sharpening that also like affects the blur on the Mix Fold 4, whereas the blur is a bit sharpened up and seems to be a bit busy. Even though this main sensor is a bit larger on the X Fold 4, it is Mix Fold 4, it is not looking like that. The X Fold 5 with a bit of software rendition basically all over the frame looks a bit more clear. However, the X Fold 5 is completely falling on its nose. This is why it's only getting 4.4 points when it comes to the front-facing video. I'm not sure what's going on there. It looks like 720p footage, where the Mix Fold 4 from Xiaomi looks like 4K downscale to 1080p. Both only can record 1080p. Maybe the Mix Fold 4 is using some kind of downscaling because it is looking very nice for 1080p. The Vivo X Fold 5, however, looks like 720p only. It's like really bad. I hope they will update this and maybe bring out, just like in the last generation, 4K recording on this front camera, and then up to the game there as well. Otherwise, if you rely on the main back-facing cameras, you can just flip them open and take selfies as well. Then you get better photos on the Vivo X Fold 5 and videos as well. Autofocus performance is also a bit weaker on the Mix Fold 4. The X Fold 5 is always spot on there, 4.5 points, very reliable. Sometimes it can misfire, just like all the other phones as well that get 4.5. But the Mix Fold 4 sometimes has some issues, especially like with the 2x lens that is like misfiring a lot for me. Which is like why I only give it 4.4 points. Front-facing camera for photos, the Vivo X Fold 5 shows the potential and is a slightly bit better also with its processing, where the Mix Fold 4 is a bit weaker, especially also in a bit lower light situations. But in general, I see the X Fold 5 a little bit in front where it comes to processing. The camera UI is very similar, but we have on the Vivo X Fold 5 a little bit more options, and the one-hand usability is given on both very nicely, but we have more options that we can choose from, and easier to reach options as well sometimes. The extra features is also a win for the X Fold 5 with tons of extra features, even though the Mix Fold 4 offers also a lot of features there. But the X Fold 5 almost the same kind of feature set that we have on the flagship phones, so this is like very ideal. What does it lead us to? The ranking list, you have to scroll down a little bit. This is like the second best folding phone ranked, the X Fold 5. You can see it at place 29. The best one is the Huawei Pura X, which is like a 22. Where are the major differences? Let's first look at the one that is like ranked one above is the Vivo X90 Pro Plus. Why is that? It's 4.8 here. It's very, very good main camera sensor, better than the X Fold 5 for sure. Also a better ultra-wide angle, but where it's falling flat on the nose is the front-facing camera, where we have on the Vivo X Fold 9 X Pro, what is it, X90 Pro Plus, a very weak one. We have a lot stronger one on the Vivo X Fold 5. This is why we have like this ranking here. But you can clearly see that the Xiaomi 14 Pro is very, very close together with the X Fold 5, which is a slab phone from last year, flagship phone from Xiaomi. It's not the Ultra, but it is a Pro phone. And you can clearly see the only differences, major differences, are the ultra-wide angle is a lot better on the 14 Pro. And the zoom, however, telezoom is better on the X Fold 5. Which is quite interesting, especially with the longer zoom ranges where the Xiaomi 14 Pro struggles a bit. The rest is almost identical, which is quite interesting. So you can see the X Fold 5 is very, very good. They're competing against one of the best smartphones there in this region there. Then the Mix Fold 4 is ranked number 36. As you can see here, it is sadly ranked underneath the Mate X3 that came out a lot earlier than the Mix Fold 4, which almost has the same performance. The only difference is like the ultra-wide angle is a bit weaker on the Mix Fold 4. You can see the rest is almost the same. There's just like a little bit of difference in terms of front camera. You can see the Mate X3 has a better front camera, but the rest is almost identical there. So yeah, a bit disappointed because I was expecting the Xiaomi Mix Fold 4 to be ranked above the X3, but this score here for the ultra-wide angle is basically killing it. And I tested it out and checked it against the P50 Pocket that I also have here, which is ranked 3.9 points. And I tripled checked, yes, the Mix Fold 4 has slightly worse performance for the ultra-wide angle than the P50 Pocket, where the P50 Pocket is even wider and offers a little bit better processing and rendition there, and maybe even a little bit more details as well. So that's it for my ranking list here. Shout out to those people who want to see me comparing the Vivo X Fold 5, which is like the second best folding phone, against the best folding phone in my ranking list, which is currently the Huawei Pura X, just to see if this main camera score can really hold up and needs to be 4.5. So it is like, or if I have to equal themselves out to 4.6 here, rank it a bit higher, the Vivo X Fold 5, I mean, against the Pura X. That's it. Until the next time, bye. So what, you expect another outtake? Yeah, you got it. This one was recorded with the Huawei Pura X, by the way, the whole video. So the other things. What you see here is my very scientific way of getting the sensor sizes of the different sensors here, because they're not written on GSM Arena. That's completely wrong. There's Chemoville as a source that is helpful sometimes, but what I did is actually get the EXIF data and just pump them into ChatGPT or DeepSeek and ask ChatGPT and DeepSeek to get me the sensor sizes. And you can see that most of the sensor sizes are wrong, because it's like 1/5.6, because they're using pixel binning, or in this case, what it gets is like, it's probably is 1.31, as you see here, 1/1.31, because it's using pixel binning and cropping in, just especially the 5x telezoom on the Mix Fold 4. But after some googling around and so on, I really found, and I think I am quite right with the sensor sizes that we have on those various different lenses there. So yeah, don't believe GSM Arena all the time. They are very, very good in figuring things out, but sometimes it's like worth checking it out on your own with the help of the EXIF data. And you don't even have to understand it. You just paste it in and ask it what is the sensor size of this one, and it will give you a nice explanation. So this is how it works. So now you know how I got the sensor sizes for the various different phones.